You guys know a lot about the tools now with Gravit. We're going to do a little bit more complicated shape. You can see that I've done all of the gradients on here, like hopefully you guys have done now too. Notice the different kinds of gradients I've used. I've got radial gradients on the border. I've got linear and radial on the fill. I've got a whole bunch of different stops on some of these. So if I open up that shape, you can see the stops that I have there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 different stops to create that one. And this one you can see it's all grays. That's why it looks metallic. So you can make things look like they're shiny and metal just by the colors that you choose for these gradients. Now we're going to go over something called the Bezier Curve Pen tool, and then also what nodes are and how to adjust those lines. So I'm going to make this look kind of like it's a lily pad. And I'm going to take a shape from up here, the polygon option, and I'm going to click in the middle of these petals. And it doesn't matter really how big you guys draw this one. Just remember those guidelines mean that it's centered, that blue line in the center, so it's centered there. And then actually where my cursor is, you can see that it's the end of it is level and even with the end of that other petal. So I'm going to let it go right here. And then you have some options for each one of your tools. Every time you click on something up here, your options over here are going to change a little bit. I can change the amount of points that this has. So I'm going to keep it right at, well, we'll go with 7. 6. I like the 6. And then I'm going to increase the corners, which means it's curving it. So if you increase that all the way up, you're basically going to make a circle. So you can determine what kind of a corner round shape you want to have and how many points you have on this. And the opacity slider here, that's how thick the paint is. So when I slide that down so you can see through it, the opacity is lower. When it's at 100%, it's like really thick paint. You can't see through it anymore. So that's something that's going to be helpful later on too when we do things with gradients and glares. Now, how do I change this from a shape? So if I'm squishing this piece, right now it's full, it's just a regular shape. How do I make it so I can actually change these lines and push and pull the lines? Well, that's something up here called modify, and you're going to change this into a path. So go down to the path option and say convert to path. What that does, if I pull on this, oh, it didn't do anything, Mr. Thompson. Yes, it did. You have the wrong tool. This is the pointer tool for selecting and sliding shapes. There's another pointer that's called the sub-select. That goes into a different level of nodes. So this is called a node, this thing that I just pulled here. And you can slide that now in and out of your shape, and you have more control over how you edit these. So if I want more of that lily pad shape that doesn't really have a rhyme or reason which direction it goes, it's just the piece that's underneath the shape, I can pull these nodes out and adjust them any way I want. The other way that you can now adjust this shape, because it's basically a line that's just containing a fill, it's not really a shape anymore, I can pull the line itself. And then you see the little blue handles that pull up, those are called handles. I can pull that handle to adjust and fine-tune things. And you have a lot more flexibility with what this shape is going to look like than just pulling on a node. You can pull on the line and get this into really specific, complicated shapes for whatever you want this thing to be. So I would say that's good enough. I'm going to keep that, but now I want it underneath everything. Okay, well, I told you, here's your raise and lower buttons up here. Bring forward and drop back. So if I send it backwards, oh my goodness, there's like 8 things that I got to send this thing backwards behind. There's a faster way to do this. Everything is layered over here, and you can see the outline changes as I go through these ellipses. So if I want to change this path now is what it's called. I want it to go all the way down underneath. As I pull this below everything else, see how it's highlighted? It's going to go underneath everything. I'm going to let it go. Now it's behind the entire shape. I can put a fill on it. So if this is going to be a lily pad, maybe I want it to have a radial gradient. The outside I'm going to make a light green. So we'll go light green on the outside, and on the inside I'll make it more of a dark green. So I'll choose my dark green option from up here. There you go. So that's how you adjust shapes, and you can do that with any one of the shapes up here. When you draw these, you can change them to a path. And like I said, let's like draw a star just off to the side. You have all those options over here again. I can change the amount of corners. I can change the size of the inside of the star, so it's almost more of a star burst. Round those corners again. change the opacity. All of those shapes have those same choices over here.